Good afternoon, everybody. Today's date is the 13th of January and the time is 4 o'clock here in the UK. So we had a lot happening towards the end of last week, and yesterday was the conjunction with Saturn and Pluto. So some very heavy dramatic weather around the place, so I'm sure that you've all got stories to tell as to how that was for you. For me personally, I'd say one of the things that was really beautiful, I was travelling back from Newcastle on Friday on the train, and the moon was so bright even before the sun had gone down. You could see it shining brightly in the sky, and it followed me all the way home like a portent. But yeah, just so beautiful in the sky, really bright, really clear, and bringing with it all its emotions and drama in some incidents. I know that for myself personally, it brought the culmination of something that started 3 years ago, which was interesting on the Saturn perspective. So yes, it was very family for me. And the Cancer Capricorn axis for myself is 511, so to do with my children and also the hopes and wishes house of house 11 and friends, but it was mainly to do with family for me. On Sunday, we had really a nice day until the Saturn Pluto brought a flood to my daughter's flat that they live in. So they had to deal with that particular drama and the effects of a landlord having neglected a property for a good while, according to the plumber. So yes, interesting to see where you are all at with everything and your experiences of the eclipse weekend and the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. And like I said last week, this is not the end. This is just the beginning of the end, if you like, the last chapter of it. So we will see repercussions of what has happened over this last weekend and the themes of it reoccurring throughout the year. So by no means done completely, although, sorry, that was my dog. The beginning of the end of it all, tying things together, and the culmination of this, particularly the Saturn for the last 3 years, that particular piece being tied off, and the Pluto stuff. I think obviously that's bigger, more global issues to be looking at, and say the power structures. I mean, it was interesting to see about Prince Harry and the Duchess of Sussex and their decisions to leave their family. And they both have quite strong Saturnian energy within their charts. So, you know, this deciding to break away. And what's interesting as well from the Queen's perspective, she's a very early doors Taurus, and she has that Uranus transit in there. So witnessing the changes and having to deal with the changes, which Taurus is not very good at. So interesting to see how that has come up at this particular time, because again, it's a culmination. So this is something that for them that's not happened overnight. This is something that's been happening since they got married and their treatment by the press, and obviously for Harry as well, with the treatment of his mother and harking back to that. So yeah, interesting to see, like I'd say, an institution, a power, and so we said heavy power was the theme with Saturn and Pluto. How the powers may be shifting, the changes, and people are talking now about, well, should everything end with the Queen, and that, you know, are we ready as a country for being a republic finally? I know there are a lot of people who will be against that, because obviously there are a lot of people who do love the royal family, but, you know, when you see shifts like this, when you see the changes, I mean, if you look at what happened with Prince Andrew and its association with Epstein as well, you know, really marring the reputation of the royal family. And you're thinking, is this the time that we decide to end it all and let them go off and just be whatever they are without us funding them? So yes, we will see what will happen with that. So a new week and a definite change in vibe this week. So you'll probably be feeling the hangover of last week for quite some time, but there is a shift this week, and certainly next week when the sun does move into Aquarius, we will see the change. Because even though Aquarius is also ruled by Saturn, it's a different kind of Saturnian energy. It's a lighter energy. So the first thing that shifts today is Venus into Pisces. And this is the first time since the end of November that Venus has been out of a Saturn ruled sign. And she likes being in Pisces. She's exalted in Pisces. So this will bring some welcome moisture and light relief to our skies and our worlds, and on a personal level. And like I say, it's a chance for Venus to feel softer, and say with Venus being exalted in Pisces, it likes that kind of soft energy, that softer quality that she has. I always associate Pisces with the sort of the big romantic ideals because of its association with Neptune, and glamour and illusion and all of those things. So having Venus here, say, puts a shine on how we feel about ourselves, how we want to be perceived, because the term glamour can be two things. It can be the one that we think of being glamorous, and you know, wearing fancy clothes and looking very very done, but also a glamour is what a magician can use, or a witch can use, in order to fool people. So if somebody glamours you or glamours themselves, they are pretending to be something that they're not. And often it's the old witch who changes herself to look like a beautiful younger woman, you know, as in the fairy stories, in order to do her evil deeds. So Venus in Pisces is putting on that glamour. It's kind of like a fancy facade, if you like. It's getting your best clothes on, it's putting your makeup on, doing your hair. It doesn't change who you are inside, but it makes you feel good. It makes others treat you differently. So I think, you know, that's a welcome relief. I think with all the, say, heavy Capricorn, about getting on, doing your business, being practical, being sensible, all those things. So it gives a kind of nice frivolous quality to our relations with others. And the other thing, obviously being associated with moisture and water, one hopes that the effects of the wider sort of community would be that Australia, who is needing the moisture the most at the moment, gets that relief, and that maybe some of the rains will come for them and quell some of the fires that are raging over there. So that's for the wider world. It could also see as well the idea of relations with others being smoother and softer. So the chances for negotiation, for peaceful talks, comes up as well with Venus in Pisces. So we could have the opportunities being made available to smooth down some of the tensions that have been occurring, particularly in Iran. But also Northern Ireland this week has got back to business with their parliament, so this could be a good week for them to start talking and looking at ways forward. And there's obviously been a lot of talk about, because of the Brexit situation, that Northern Ireland might decide to join with the rest of Ireland and become independent, which would be an amazing thing. So maybe that's the chance for them to start talking about these things. So one would hope so. So yeah, just doing your relationships with other people. It brings the glamour, brings the spice. You know, instead of being so tired as to not to want to bother so much with your partner, maybe, you know, a chance for the date night, chance for some time together that isn't just about sorting out the bills and doing the housework. So a good time for that this week. Good time over the next few weeks to sort yourself out with a nice evening out with your partner, even within the January gloom. So yes, so that's our Venus in Pisces, which goes in today. The next one I would like to talk about, so continues our little Uranus Aquarius vibe when Venus sextiles Uranus, and I like this aspect. I have this myself. It's one of my favourite aspects that I have, and I think the thing about this aspect to me, it brings a tolerance of other people, of difference, because Uranus sometimes can feel like the outsider, and the sort of freaks and weirdos is what I associate, as well as the mad scientists, geeks and freaks, and so people who are a little different. And with Venus aspects in this, it brings about a tolerance for other people's foibles and freakeries and strangeness, and that can only be a good thing. So being more tolerant of others certainly helps in the wider world, and having a more humane understanding of difference and being kinder towards people who are different to ourselves can only be, say, a positive thing. On a personal level, because obviously Uranus is associated with independence as well, it's like even within couples who are firmly together, you are still individuals, and this aspect highlights that. It's highlighting the need to be an individual even within a relationship. So the idea of stepping out on your own, maybe enjoying your hobbies, enjoying some time alone, and it not being an issue. So it's finding that time within your relationship to be separate, and that energising the relationship then as a whole. I remember a story about Helena Bonham Carter and Tim Burton, and that they live next door to each other. They don't actually share a house, and the reason for that was to keep the magic alive within their relationship. They felt that seeing each other every moment of every day would bring about a too great familiarity and lose any of the mystery and magic within their relationship. And certainly that speaks to the Uranian natures of both of them, and it's about this aspect is kind of us looking at that for ourselves. Where do we find that space to be ourselves on our own? And if we've not been doing it, then starting to do that, finding those opportunities to exist as an individual and asserting your rights as an individual. So, like I say, I like this aspect. I think this is a very positive aspect in terms of relations. So we've got some nice little relationship vibes going down this week. So the Venus in Pisces bringing the kindness and the tolerance and maybe a little bit of spice and glamour, and this Venus sextile to Uranus says it's all right to be you. It's all right just to be you yourself, and that you don't need anything other than you to be special. So, which is what I like. Then the next one that we have got is the 16th, when again we continue with our Aquarian theme and Uranian theme. We have got Mercury moving into Aquarius, and again a Saturn rule sign, but a very different Saturn rule sign. So obviously this is an air sign. Mercury likes being in air. It likes to communicate. It likes being curious. And it's all those kind of out of the box radical ideas that can find their voice when Mercury is in Aquarius. Again, say sort of mad professor vibes here, the sign of the geeks and freaks. And so, you know, look at your more radical ideas with a new light when Mercury is in Aquarius, because that is the time for this kind of thing. So thinking differently, using the scientific method. Obviously Aquarius is also ruled by Saturn, so you know there needs to be some method in your madness, as it were, and being able to find a way to bring forward new and interesting ideas, but with a practical application. So again, it takes away the heaviness of the Capricorn Saturn. The idea of Capricorn Saturn is the rings that bind. Aquarius Saturn is pressing out against those boundaries, those rings, and maybe even existing outside of them. This has got much. It feels lighter, more spacious. It allows your thoughts to roam a lot more wildly and radically. So say a good time for trying to bring up things that are new, to get curious about new ways in which you can apply your maybe somewhat crazy or strange ideas, or different ideas, or new ideas. So there we've got Aquarius there for, Mercury in Aquarius there for a good few weeks. And so that is the time to enjoy that. The only jar with that is that Mercury makes a square to Uranus pretty much straight away. So this is the other side of Aquarius, and I think that this one is about the maybe some ideas that are too far ahead and too out of the blue, and it's too revolutionary. So being a little bit careful, and that happens on the 18th is a square, so towards the end of the week. Just be careful how forcefully you present your ideas that might be different. Not all audiences are tolerant of change. And again, this makes me think of the Queen, our lovely archetypal Taurus sun. Very much about tradition, very much about keeping up the heritage and that sort of thing, and not being open to anything that is new and different. So if you think of it in that way, so when you present your ideas, imagine presenting them to someone who is very fixed and would be the worst critic for these things, and maybe try to tone that down a little bit. It's also about, sorry, the dog's at it again, chewing something. But yes, like I say, it's like having those radical ideas, but maybe gauging your audience so that you're not overstepping the mark too much, or aren't too forceful in how you're presenting this change, because like I say, not everybody enjoys those things and finds them easy. So I overall say a nice little shift in the energies this week, say a lot lighter, which will come as a welcome relief to those people particularly being pounded by this Capricorn energy. So make the most of that light and bright. Venus in Pisces, go out for a date, have a nice time, talk through your ideas, but remember to mute them sufficiently so that the audience is receptive to them. Find your space in your relationships and be happy just to exist as you. That'd be my message to you for this week. So thank you for listening. I shall be back again next week to talk you through the sun moving into Aquarius and our pace being picked up in the Aquarian direction and away from the Saturn-Pluto storm that's existed around us for the last few weeks. Okay, thanks ever so much, and I'll speak to you all soon.